In your engine room, you're not going to find just your propulsion engines or engines related to your propulsion.
Welcome to another episode of the Southern Boating Podcast. I'm Ian Sneed.
I'm James Anderson.
And before we get started, remember to subscribe to the channel. Today, we're going to be talking to you about the mechanical room. Now, what I mean by that is we know it's easy when everything is in one location to take care of whatever you need. The engines aren't the only thing that you'll find in an engine room. You will
Propulsion
find
engines.
Correct. Yes. You can find many other pieces of equipment
and engines
that you need so that you can boat properly. And this includes Watermakers, compressors, I have a list here, stabilizers, generators, fire safety, air conditioning, all of that typically tends to be in one area. So today we're going to talk about that.
Mm-hmm. Perfect.
I think that was a good intro. I'm going to give myself a high five.
You give yourself a little...
Yeah. That was because I was off the cuff, people.
Good job. All right. So you said it well. In your engine room, you're not going to find just your propulsion engines or engines related to your propulsion. You're going to find many other different things. And it is all located there, so you're in one central area, right? And there's a lot of reasons for that, and we don't have to get into all of those. One of them that we'll find, and the first one in the article, is Watermakers. For some of us, we know how important a Watermaker is. If you're living on board, well, you need a Watermaker.
Absolutely.
Right? You don't want to always, especially if you're trying to explore and where you're going, there's not a fresh water source available or a drinkable water source available. Yeah. So in this room, you can find your Watermakers. And Watermakers comes in all different shapes, sizes, how much water you need. There's a lot of different parameters.
Yes, absolutely.
Okay? We have in here two different brands, SeaWater Pro, reverse osmosis. But those are not the only other brands.
Right.
There's a lot more. There's blue water desalination. There's a plethora of them.
Yeah, there is.
But you need to determine how much water you're going to need, at what rate you're going to need it, and how refined you want your water source, right? Because they're all slightly different with their filtration. You'll find that in this room. The other things that you might find in this room, especially if you're an exploration kind of guy and you're into some water sports and or especially diving, is a compressor, right? To refill your cylinders.
It's funny because like as I read this, my brain was like, oh yeah, of course that's an important piece. Like what I'd never really considered it.
It might not be mandatory if you're just a cruiser and you're not doing any diving, but if you're going to do some diving, you definitely want this. You don't want to have to always find a dive shop to refill your tanks.
Right.
Boring, waste of time.
Right. And some of these compressors, they can stay on board or they can be mobile.
Correct.
I think that that's another element that when it comes to purchasing one, you want to look at. Is this something that I need to take with me somewhere, or is this something I want to leave on my vessel?
Or not just do you want to take it with you, is it easier to have a mobile one in case it needs to be serviced? Because then you can just take it to be serviced.
Yes.
Instead of have someone come to service you. Very important. The other thing that you're going to find in this room, and we talk a lot about this. In fact, we have an article coming up about the difference between the two here soon, is stabilizers. Stabilizers come in two forms. You're either going to be a gyro stabilizer, which can take up quite a bit of room, and how a gyro stabilizer works is it has a flywheel that is spinning at a high rate. And it's counterbalancing. Right. So it's stopping that rocking motion that you get. Again, there's many different people that make these. Smart Gyro, Quick, USA. You also have Seakeeper, which is the famous one that everybody knows about.
Right.
And there's some others out there as well. But these are usually take up quite a bit of space.
Yes.
And can be almost on any size boat.
Right.
I mean, you're looking from small center consoles that have these all the way up to multiple stabilizers, gyro stabilizers on very large yachts.
Yes.
Okay.
You also have the fin version, right?
Correct. So now you have the other style, which is the fin stabilizers, and this is much different. These are fins, both on port and starboard side, that are moving as you're underway to help keep your balance. And this takes up a lot less space. Still takes up a little space, but the equipment will be in your engine room as well. The one that we have in the magazine is from Coastal Offshore X-cellence, which is they've partnered with CMC Marine. CMC Marine.
Yes.
They talk about, what they're used for. Now, you don't see these on small boats.
No.
This is really from 40 feet and above, but it's something that a lot of people like. I mean, if you're getting out into the open seas and you don't like a lot of motion, then you may very well want to have some stabilizer fence.
Absolutely.
Right? And have the equipment for it.
And then the next section would be generators.
Yes, you've heard us talk a lot about generators in this office.
Well, I mean, what I like about this is I think most people understand how important generators can be, even if you're not a boater. Generators on your boat are so crucial.
If you need power, refill your batteries or recharge your batteries, you can use a generator to do that. You can have running power that's on your generators. Generators come both in the options of, do you want AC power, so alternating current, or DC power, direct current. They come in multitudes of sizes, anywhere from 5,000 kilowatts to a whole lot of kilowatts.
Right.
There are some big brands out there. In the magazine, we talk about Fischer Panda. We talk about Phasor Marine. But there is Kohler, there is Northern Lights, and just a whole lot more that are out there and available.
And so part of choosing who you go with is really the space that you have as well, the needs that you're going to have,
right? So
your power needs. Your power needs. It makes it really easy because they're all very specific about what their generator does, how much it provides. So it makes it easy when you know what your needs are to pick. A lot of these brands are just so trustworthy. You could almost like throw a dart and know that you're getting a good brand because they want to service you so well.
Exactly. And a lot of them come with safety features, auto shut off for low oil pressure or overheating. Most of them use raw water source to actually cool themselves with a heat exchanger. So very important. And they do require some maintenance as well. So having them in a spot in your engine room that's readily accessible is important. But this is something that you're very commonly going to find in an engine room.
Absolutely.
Okay. Now, moving on, in Florida, the next piece of equipment is one that you see a lot of because it's a million degrees down here in the heat in the summer, but air conditioners. And there's a lot of different styles of air conditioners now.
Yes, there is.
Right. And you've experienced now 2 different styles of air conditioners. And you've experienced actually, without noticing it, you've experienced both of these.
The Termodinamica, I remember very clearly. The Dometic Marines, the Turbo Series.
Right. So you've experienced this on some smaller boats.
Yep.
So the big difference is that Dometic is using the raw water to actually cool, where the other one is actually more of a Freon based, or whatever is replacing Freon these days.
Exactly. It's something I think more people would understand with their traditional in-home AC.
Right.
Or cars even.
Exactly right. Even in an automobile. Main thing is, how much are you cooling? How much space do you need to cool? How often are you going to cool it? Is it something that's just you're cooling it for overnight to sleep, or are you cooling it all day long while you're utilizing your yacht? In those terms, it'll help guide you to understand a lot of these different things.
And which one works best for you, especially if you're trying to upgrade or refit.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, this is a big part of refits too, right?
Yeah.
All of these are huge parts of refits, depending on how in depth, if you're refitting a boat, you want to be, is it just a small refit where we're just going to clean up and make everything look shiny and new? Or are we doing a complete overhaul to replacing, upgrading? These are all things that are important. To know the difference between air conditioners is important. And the last one.
And the last one. Which I'm going to let you touch on it. But the last one I think is important because we talk about safety
all the time.
As much as we can. We want the boating community to be safe because it can be dangerous, especially if you don't know what you're doing. But things happen and you need to be prepared. And this is one of the most important things to have when it comes to preparation. And that is
fire safety.
Fire safety.
Having a fire suppression system on your boat, and especially in your engine room. This is the highest likelihood of having a fire on your boat is in the engine room. You have a lot of stuff going on. These engines all run on internal combustion, so there's spark, there's fuel. Easy ways to have things go wrong. That's why it's also so important to make sure that you maintain a very clean engine room.
Yes.
No oil spills. Making sure that everything's cleaned perfectly so you can reduce the risk of fire. But accidents happen, and having a fire suppression can save you a major ordeal.
Huge problem, yes.
Right?
And we talk about the fire suppression system in this article.
So this one that we talk about in this article is relatively cool.
Yeah.
Because it uses what you would normally not think of how to suppress a fire.
Right.
Which is by cooling down
taking out heat as opposed to taking out oxygen out of the two variables. And I was like, that's interesting. I didn't know that how do you do that?
Right?
Like, it was really interesting.
So there's a couple of ways of suppressing a fire. We've always seen, well, the way that everybody thinks of suppressing a fire is usually with water, right?
Right, and that's not.
When you're talking about a fire that might be involving a catalyst like fuel, not a good idea.
No.
Right? Because it might not stop it at all.
Exactly.
Right? Or make the matter worse.
Yeah.
Right? We've all seen grease fires, and when you put water on a grease fire, well,
you got a problem.
It was a big
so
part of it.
There are different types of fires, obviously, right? The electrical fire, grease fires, fuel.
Oil fires. Fuel. You can call oil fuel, right?
Yeah. There's tons of different types. So having a suppression system that takes out heat, right? I was like, that's so smart.
So Fireboy-Xintex has this option. It is really, really neat. It's something that you can buy and it's readily available to install, or you can have a custom install, right? And it's one that I would say is most important. Not just having a fire extinguisher, but having in your engine room a fire suppression system.
Yep. And we'll put links to the companies that are in this article in the description below so that you can go check it out if you're interested in learning more.
Absolutely.
Especially the fire safety one. It'll be in there. I can
Nobody
guarantee it.
wants a fire ever.
No.
All right. That's it for this episode. So
Yes.
I'm James Anderson.
I'm Ian Sneed.
Make sure to come back and check us out next week. Shop says.
Shop says.
Woo!
I like those words.
I will never knock anybody for failing. Never, ever, ever. Do you know what fail stands for?
No.
First attempt in learning.
Oh, yeah. You've told me that, actually. Now that you say it again.
So important to understand that.
And a quick little sound sync.
Manly claps.
Manly claps. Hold on. Let me try.
That boy.
That was okay. Yeah. It's the extra arm movement. I got to move the microphone is what it is. Number 2. Ready? Oh, wow. That was horrible.